Hi, it's Adam at Stretch Your English, sharing ideas and resources for teachers of English to speakers of other languages. To introduce the activity in this video, I have a quick question. Do you record vocabulary on the board, but then do little or nothing at all with it? I know many of my students nowadays will take a photo of the whiteboard and the vocabulary that I've listed there on one side of it, or perhaps a screenshot if teaching online. And actually, it's something that I do myself now as well. I take a quick snap of any vocabulary that I've listed on the board in a lesson just as a reference point. But as I say, what's the point? What are we going to do with all this language that we collect? Well, here's an idea and an activity as well that you can use to simply help you routinely encourage your learners to engage with this language. You can use this interactive activity in a similar way that you might use a dice. So why do we use dice in lessons sometimes? Well, to add some structure to an activity or even gamify an activity and turn it into a game or a challenge. And of course, a dice can also help to incorporate chance and shift the focus away from the teacher. So rather than having the teacher dictate questions to students and ask students to perform certain tasks, we can put that responsibility onto chance instead. This activity is created with Genially, and as usual, there is a link to it directly below this video here on YouTube in the description. Alternatively, of course, you can visit my website, stretchyourenglish.com, and then find teaching resources. And at the moment, it's here. So here we are, vocabulary review, link to resource. We can click and it will open in our browser. So here we go, vocabulary review. Let's check 5 vocabulary items, so words or phrases. For each item, the student chooses a number and has to answer the question. Are you ready? Okay, let's say yes. Let's do it. So here we are. The first vocabulary item is, and you can then provide word or a phrase to your students, or of course, ask a student to. Again, put the responsibility on them and ask them to provide a new item of vocabulary from a recent lesson. And then you can simply ask the students to choose a number. So let's say number 8. Okay, can you use it in a sentence? Simple. And repeat. So next. Now we can clearly see we're on the second item of vocabulary. So again, there's just a bit of structure to this simple vocabulary review activity. Again, ask the students, choose a number. Okay, let's go for number 5 this time. Can you give some different forms? Okay, so if the word is a noun, is there an adjective equivalent? And so on. We can do the same again for the 3rd, 4th, and a 5th vocabulary item. At the moment, there are 18 squares here, 18 numbers for the students to choose from. There are only 6 questions at the moment in circulation. Can you give some different forms? So encouraging the students to think about word families and the form of the word. What does it mean? So a question focusing on meaning here. And can you remember how to spell it or pronounce it? So again, moving back to form there and writing and speaking skills. Can you say this in a different way? So again, encouraging the students to think about paraphrasing and different ways to express the same or a similar meaning. 5th question, can you use it in a sentence? And question 6, can you teach your classmates or teacher how to say this in your first language? So thinking about translation there, and this might be something which is maybe a bit more light-hearted or a bit more fun if this question pops up for your students. So as I say, there are 6 questions here, but I will make this activity reusable. So if you want to sort of reverse engineer it and add your own questions, you can. And it may be that if other teachers have any cool questions they want to recommend to me in the comments on this video, I'll add them myself. As a final suggested activity, students are asked to share their top tips for learning vocabulary. So that's it really, and what I intend to do is to continue noting any vocabulary that occurs in my lessons, And then every few days, every few weeks, bring some of this vocabulary back at the end of the lesson and use this activity as a simple way to structure a vocabulary review. And hopefully it's something the students will become familiar with. If they get a bit bored with it, maybe I'll move away from it, but we'll see. And hopefully it can be useful to other teachers too. So do feel free to let me know how you get on. Just as a final note, I was going to call this activity Today's Vocabulary, but just shifted to vocabulary review instead. As I said a minute ago, it's probably a good idea not only to review the vocabulary from today's lesson, but from a few days ago and a few weeks ago. And this is influenced by some reading I did recently into space learning, and a very recent book which summarises a lot of the discussion on space learning which has happened over the years and decades. Grasp: The Science Transforming How We Learn, great read. And the author notes how space learning deserves more of a starring role in how we think about teaching and learning, and may even be crucial to the mechanisms that make memory possible, so remembering vocabulary. Please do subscribe to the channel if you'd like to hear more ideas and resources, or view my website or my Instagram account, and you can also drop me a message, stretcherenglish@gmail.com as well. Thanks for watching, and happy teaching.